Hey everyone, I am joined today by my friend Kathy.
Hello.
Today we are going to be talking about the book Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut. Is that how you pronounce his last name?
I believe it is, yes.
Kurt Vonnegut, Slaughterhouse-Five. We both read this book as a part of a buddy read, and we also read The Handmaid's Tale, which we reviewed over on Kathy's channel, so be sure to check that out after this video. Slaughterhouse-Five. Let's give ourselves a limited amount of time to talk about this. What do you think?
Yeah, I think 20 minutes,
Okay.
then we can edit out all of our we don't know what we're talking about. Yeah.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Sounds good.
I'm going to start the timer now. All right, let's go.
Slaughterhouse-Five.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that this is a historical sci-fi?
Yeah, I think that would be accurate.
Yeah, so this is the second Kurt Vonnegut book that I've ever read. I read Cat's Cradle first. And going into that book, I had no idea what his style of writing was or what I was getting myself into. But going into this, I had a little bit of an idea. Have you read any of his books?
I think that when I was a teenager, I tried to read one of them, but I wasn't seriously trying to read it. I think I was just I picked up Breakfast of Champions or something, and I was like, I don't know the context of anything of this. And I understand from, doing a little bit of research that, his books overlap a little, so if you do read them, you get
interesting.
Which
I didn't
could
know
be
that.
Cool to do, but I just haven't gotten around to it.
Is it all kind of based in the same universe, do you think?
I think so, yeah. The sci-fi writer in
okay.
this book is the main character in Breakfast of Champions, or something like that.
Okay.
So it kind of feels like he's similar in the vein of Stephen King, where Stephen King's things overlap, everything is interconnected, and it feels like Vonnegut might be another one of those authors, although with significantly fewer works.
Interesting. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I did not know. I don't know if there's any direct character crossover with Cat's Cradle in Slaughterhouse-Five. I don't think so. I think I would have noticed, but again, I don't know. I liked this book. I don't know what you thought.
Yeah, I liked it too. I found it was really strange to slog through the first maybe 100 pages of it, but after that I was captured by it. I was like, okay, yeah, this book is this book is super weird and interesting, and I would like to see how this goes. Yeah.
A lot of the parts about the war were very serious and kind of, you kind of get in this mode at the beginning of the book. You're like, oh, this is going to be a serious, maybe it's going to be a sad book, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere it's like, okay, there's aliens and time travel and what? It's very
especially going into it not knowing anything about it, just knowing it's one of those classics that everyone should read. Honestly, do you know why I was like, hey, this is a classic that everyone should read? It's because Ren talks about it in Footloose. It's mentioned as a side little thing in a musical. I'm like, I guess that's a book I need to read eventually.
I think it's on those lists. People always do those lists of books to read before you die kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just one of those classics. So
and you know the name. You've heard the name. It's a very I thought it was going to be a horror book. Without knowing anything. I was like, oh, this is going to be horror. This is going to be super scary, maybe sci-fi, but I wasn't really sure. And then I was like, oh no, it's serious. But having read Cat's Cradle, I was like, there's got to be a weird thing. There's got to be something that just makes it a little off, and then sure enough, alien abduction. Cool.
Yeah, so you knew going into it was going to have some weirdness.
I was just waiting for it.
I spent a decent amount of time in the book trying to figure out if Billy Pilgrim was a stand-in for Kurt Vonnegut, because I knew that he had been at the firebombing of Dresden, so I knew that. But then we found out, there was this one line where, it was just this side character that was also there. It was me, I'm the author, I am the person writing this book. And then it just continued on. You're like, oh, wait, I guess Billy Pilgrim is not a stand-in. Maybe he's an everyman character, because it's such an everyman name, Billy Pilgrim.
I was always wondering, okay, so he can travel back to, any point in his life and sort of relive it, and he can wake up not really knowing, at what point in his life he is. Mm-hmm. But at one point he does, it does happen that he meets these aliens and he gets taken and put into their zoo. Has he, like, does he always know that that's going to happen eventually because he can travel back, you know, to when he was a kid? Like,
yeah, like, does he
like,
know?
How many consciousness does he have? I feel like it almost, like, splits who he is.
I felt that the whole time travel aspect was kind of, because if there's too many time travel lines, I can't follow them. Like, anything more complex than Back to the Future, and I'm like, But I felt that it was kind of like PTSD flashbacks, and I felt like that's what was happening every time he went back in time. He was actually just reliving something from horrible, traumatic point in his life. Maybe? Yeah. That was me being like,
interesting. So it wasn't, he was actually traveling back and able to change anything. It was just sort of like watching it again.
Yeah, that's what I felt like. I felt like he was just like, he was there and he could think his own thoughts, but he couldn't change anything that he had done at that particular time, is how I kind of felt about it.
Okay. Yeah. Let's talk about the aliens and their ability to see all of their lives and all of time as a flat sort of thing. It's a very unhuman, unnatural, like, way of thinking. Like, you almost can't picture it.
Yeah, no, I could not. Like, because we're used to just such, like, that's how our lives go. They're very linear. We can't just go back to a different time besides, like, through things like stories or memories or that type of thing. But you can't affect anything in the past, and you can't affect anything in the future. You can only really affect what's happening now. So any type of alien race that's just like, no, we just exist and we can pop around. I'm like, that is a very different experience than the one I have.
Yeah, it's almost like, there was this book that I read a long time ago called, I think it was called Flatland, and it was sort of this universe where everything was in 2 dimensions, and they couldn't perceive what 3 dimensions was like.
Yep, I've heard of this. I'm like, yep, anything like outside of our 3 dimensions to a 4 dimensions, I'm like, nope, can't figure that out. It got to the point where it just seemed like his life was filled with terrible, terrible things that happened. Like, he had to be in this war, he happened to survive the bombing of Dresden, he gets married, has kids, and then, like, he's in a plane crash, and then his wife dies on the way to the hospital to see him. Like, your life was not really great, Billy.
Yeah, and that supports your theory that a lot of these flashbacks are the results of PTSD, because a lot of the things you're seeing are really, really terrible. And it's also similar to the other book of his I've read, Cat's Cradle, where there's this sort of overlying just bad things happening, and on their own it could have been a very sad book, but then he just has this, like, level of weirdness that sort of just, it's so interesting. Did you have, like, a physical copy when you read?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so was this in your book?
Yes, I remember that being there. I don't remember paying much attention to it.
Okay, so the quote is, it's a tombstone, and on the tombstone it reads, "Everything was beautiful and nothing hurt." I've heard that quote so many times. I never knew where it was from. Who would you recommend this book to, Kathy?
Anyone who likes sci-fi, because it's definitely that.
Yeah, definitely that.
I suppose there's a kind of contingent of people that do like reading, like, war type of stuff, so them. Although if they're, like, hardcore into just, like, military tactics, maybe not, but also it would be an interesting perspective to see them read this book and see what they get out of what I'm assuming is mostly PTSD imagery, because I don't know.
And if you have those 2 interests, then this might be the perfect book for you to read. I enjoyed it. I liked it. It was a good time. It's also a fairly quick read. Depending on how long it takes you to read. But I'm a very slow reader, and I did breeze through it fairly easily. His books tend to be, I think, on the shorter side. Well, compact, interesting stories. Made me think about life and death and how I'm really glad I'm not in an alien zoo.
Yep. Not the place I want to be.
That.
Or, in a war, for that matter.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah, a lot of, like, parallels with like, real, actual, reality, terrible things, and then, like,
made up terrible things.
Completely made up terrible things.
Yeah.
With a odd lightness to the way the narrative is presented.
Yeah, it goes.
It's heavy, but it's just so it goes. Exactly.
Yeah.
So it goes.
Ooh, we have 30 seconds. What are your last thoughts about the book?
It's an interesting ride.
Yeah, I would concur with that. Having picked it up, not knowing what I was getting myself into, it was definitely an interesting time. Also, there's a Crash Course literature video about it, which I'm pretty sure I watched years before reading the book.
Oh, wow.
So that's
I'm gonna go watch that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And that's time. We did it. Yeah.
We did it. Thanks so much for watching. Please go check out Kathy's channel and subscribe and watch our video on The Handmaid's Tale. Comment below if you have any other questions for us about this book, or if you've read it and your thoughts, or if you hated it and loved it, tell us why. Anything else you want to say?
Not particularly. Can we meow?
Yes!
Yeah.
We can meow. Meow.